Welcome to the Diary of Discovery, the podcast where we delve deep into the human experience of healing and transformation. I'm your host, Jacky, and each week we will sit down with inspiring individuals who have embarked on their own personal journeys of healing and self-discovery. From overcoming trauma to navigating life's challenges, our guests share their raw and honest stories, offering insights, wisdom, and hope to all who tune in. So grab your favorite cup of tea, find a cozy spot, and join us as we uncover the power of resilience, courage, and the pursuit of authenticity. This is the Diary of Discovery. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm super excited to welcome yet another incredible guest. Do you want to tell everyone who you are and where you are in the world?
Yes, thank you very much, Jacky. I am Helen Northard. I am based in Leeds in West Yorkshire in the UK. It's lovely to be here.
Yay! I'm so excited to have you. I'm so excited. So, we are going to be jumping straight in to your own personal story, and I'd like for us to start at the beginning, as we always do with this podcast. And if you could take us back to what led to what you would call your healing moment. What was the circumstances around what got you to realizing something had to change?
Yes. This was a few years ago now, and I was burning out and I didn't realize it. I was one of those people that just carried on, and I remember going out to dinner with a really good friend of mine, and she said, "I'm worried about you." And it was like, what? I had no idea where that had come from. I'm meeting my pastor, we're fine here. And she said, "I'm really, really worried about you. I think you're stressed. I think you might be burning out. Will you book an appointment with a doctor?" And I said yes, because I'm a people pleaser. And I said yes with every intention to cancel it. So we met on Wednesday, and I booked the appointment for Monday morning with every intention that it's like, it'll be fine, I can just cancel. And I think something within me listened. And that's when your subconscious or your spirit takes over, who knows what, but it did. And it was December, and I remember being with my family, with the little ones, in a Christmas market, and I collapsed. And so I went to the appointment on Monday, and I just sobbed. And I got signed off, and I remember being signed off, sitting in my car crying. And that was that. But it was really weird, really weird. I rang my boss, cried to my boss, and then just sat and cried some more. And it was like everything came crashing down. But that was it. No help, no, not just a piece of paper. Here's your piece of paper. Off you go. And it was like, okay, I did not know what was happening at all. I just knew it wasn't right because you'd sit in front of a person and sob from start to finish. And then that was that. So that was the beginning of the journey. I suppose it's interesting that the defining moment is sitting sobbing, but actually the day before should have been more poignant because I'm in a beautiful English village at a Christmas fair with kids going, "Oh my God, oh my God." And I'm like, what, conked out. I have a bit of a memory of that, but the most poignant for me is actually saying it, I think. But yeah, it's really interesting. It just took almost a 4 day whoosh for what my friend saw in me that I didn't notice to collapse to getting signed off. And yeah, did I realize stuff needed to change? No. Yes and no, we don't recognize it in ourselves, do we? So from that point onwards, I think marked the beginning, but it was a slow journey because what they don't tell you is what's actually happening. You just get notes. You don't know what's going on. You don't know why you are the way you are. So I cried and did laundry. And because I am an angelic Reiki healer and master teacher, I couldn't help myself, so I felt like a failure. That wasn't my profession at the time. I worked in the big corporate world for a massive multinational. So again, and I got to a really senior level, and again, felt like even more of a failure because nobody else is going through this, are they? So I can't heal myself. I obviously can't do my job. Cried and did laundry. Like literally, the kids, I'd be eyeing them up like, "Are you going to wear that much longer?" Whip it off of them, do laundry because I needed something to do and there was no help at all. So yeah, that marked the beginning of the journey for me.
Gosh. Oh, yeah. I mean, I can massively resonate with that. I wasn't signed off. I was working for myself at the time, but
Yeah,
I remember sitting in a doctor's office getting diagnosed with depression and the same thing, just like I don't actually know what to do now or how to deal with this or where to go or what the next steps is. And
yeah.
it was kind of like, oh yeah, we'll give you access to this online portal that you can like fill in some questionnaires and eh, okay. I don't know what to do in my everyday life though. Like, what am I supposed to do when I go home right now? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, it was so wild.
It's
And
true.
you're so like, for me, I felt really broken. I don't know if like you kind of
Yeah,
identify with that. Like, I felt really broken as a person. And
yeah,
I was like, you're leaving this broken person to kind of try figure it out themselves.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it just really blew my mind. And like looking back now, I think it was kind of part of the whole reason why I wanted to start the podcast and why I wanted to create this platform. And it was
yeah,
all of these sorts of elements of like, there's just not enough support for people who
yeah,
don't actually
yeah,
know what they could be doing and don't get any of
yeah,
the practical help and advice and don't get sort of guided in the right
yeah,
direction. And, you know, I think also that idea of like the collapse and then that not actually being the defining moment for you,
yeah,
like actually it being, after the fact, once you kind of realize, like, this is the situation. I think again, like so many people experience that where their nervous system like tries to protect them so heavily that
yeah,
it's like, yeah, we're not actually going to remember that. We're not actually going to associate
yeah,
with that. We're going to dissociate and say, like, actually, like that wasn't a thing and we're just like kind of pick up the pieces after the fact because
yeah,
it's actually a really big thing like when you think about your body getting to that point
yeah.
and physically just being like I'm done now, like I'm so done. But how brilliant is it that you had a friend who could recognize that in
Yes.
you and like was there for that,
Yeah.
like actually saying, I really think you need to do something. Like so many people don't even have that
No,
level of
no.
support, which I think is really, really incredible. And I guess like you said that that was kind of like the start of your journey.
Yes, yes.
So what, I don't know, like what unfolded from there? Like what did you have to sort of get to know about yourself as you were kind of going on that journey to like
Yeah.
realize like okay, like this is who I am and this is like what has to change and like this is how I need to go forward.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Because from a place where you're a bit more healed, you can look back and I maybe understood that it was coming for a while, but I didn't know at the time. For me, honestly, I spent ages going, what the fuck is happening to me? What the fuck am I going to do about this? And it was so scary. And I almost had some, I started to research a little bit because I had no idea. I went to CBT, which the practitioner wasn't the best. And I should have guessed because I was sat quite low down and she was sat really high up. And and she and she just and I understood why I'd got there. And it was because I'm a people person. And the job that I was in and the organization at the time was doing what was right for the organization, but it wasn't right for me. And I didn't like the way people were being treated. And it was that that tipped me over the edge. I had always had an excessively high workload, always just plowed on through. It didn't bother me from a space like, kind of nearly, this was nearly 10 years ago. Now I'm like, yeah, no, that was way too much. You just like, because this is how I was brought up. You work hard, you are strong, you please others. And so I didn't even see that that was a problem. And I would say now that this other part of it was just, that was the tip of the, that just broke it. Okay. It was already starting to break and that just broke it. And looking back, I remember having a conversation with a colleague. And they were doing something that I objected to. I didn't think it'd be right for people, and I was it was just me and him. I was getting really shouty. It was like, "Are you okay?" It's just like you don't seem okay. You seem really angry, and I think some of those emotions were coming out. And I think when I started my journey to understand what was really going on, I don't think I ever saw myself. It was always about what I needed to do, be the good girl, please the others, do the strength thing, carry the workload, help others, work really hard, and ignore everything that makes you you, which was about the way people were being treated and the way that I felt I was part of that poor treatment. And I that was a huge defining moment for me. And I call it being kicked in the values. I am female, so I don't have any of those, but I imagine for men, if you're kicked in that, it can really hurt. And the more people that I've spoken to, because I used to work, I've done a lot of work with colleagues who were struggling with burnout and stress. And what kept coming through was some value within them that had been compromised and that tipped them over the edge to the point where they were unable to function. And I think that's something that's not talked about in the world of stress and burnout. But I had to learn that about myself. I also had to learn what shame felt like and what I did to myself as well, because rather than get upset with the organization, my parents are a bit like, oh, yeah, yeah, we could see that coming. Okay, well, I'm just really ashamed. I literally, I might as well have just been wandering around with just in my underwear. That's how ashamed I felt. And I remember being on a training course and breaking down and telling people because I was training in coaching and psychology, so it's a good environment. But afterwards, I just felt like nobody would want to talk to me because this had happened. And it was like you get this label from the doctor, which is lovely. This is what you've got. Tick off your pop now, but your world has changed completely, and the version of who I was changed completely. And I just felt not even broken. I felt worthless because I couldn't keep up, because I couldn't help myself, because everybody else was still working and I wasn't, and because everybody else on the course was intact and I wasn't, and I didn't know how to fix myself. So yeah, I had to learn that hard lesson. And then I learned about the world of stress by happenstance. I was doing some volunteer work and met a fantastic professor at the University of Westminster who said, stress makes you stupid, and told me all about the world of stress and how it takes your memory from you, because that's just a normal response. I was like that. Oh, this is explaining. I thought I had early onset dementia at one point. I did not know it was stress. And I started to learn more and more about the world and more about the fact that it wasn't anything to do with me. It was a natural response. It was normal. And going back to the CBT office, it took me an hour to explain to this practitioner that it wasn't the hours, it was how people were being treated. And an hour later, she agreed with me. But again, it seemed like everything was a battle. If I'd have had any courage at that point, I would have walked out, but I didn't because I didn't advocate for myself. When I was stressed, it was all my faults, nothing to do with the work environment or anything else. And it was through my studies that I actually did some gestalt work and became angry. It's like, hey, an appropriate emotion at last, with what had happened to me and the failings of the system. But in all of it, I just didn't know myself well enough. I was too busy being the good girl, doing the corporate thing because you're supposed to, carrying on and helping others. And don't get me wrong, there were wonderful people to work with, but I was ignoring myself. And it turned out on my journey, as I look back now, apart from when the memories used to go and the dizzy spells and the fact that I had a disc prolapse and a really good physio when it went again said, you do realize that having a disc prolapse can be a function of stress because your muscle groups tighten. I was like, what? What? What the hell? Oh my God. And even then, and I was off work with it. I was literally, I couldn't feel my feet anymore. Both of them went numb. I had sciatica down both legs and I was still working. And it wasn't until my boss came in and I was stretched over a desk in agony. He's like, I think you better go home. And it was that ignoring of me that was a hard lesson. That yes, you can. There's lots of things that contribute, but if I'd have listened to myself more and done more of what worked for me and been a bit braver about that, but I didn't know to be brave. And I didn't know to see myself in my own life, as bizarre as that sounds. And those are things that I really needed to get to know about myself. And actually, at the time before I had the breakdown, I was going for Reiki once a month, and I used to practically crawl in, and it used to really help. It used to restore me, and I come back feeling not quite myself because I always described there was something missing, but I felt like I had a bit of energy. And then I stopped doing the Reiki, and then everything fast forwarded and collapsed. So I think that was saving me at that point. But rather than do more of it, rather than hit the brakes and go, this is no good for me anymore, I need some time out, I didn't know enough about myself or recognize what was going on until I fell. And that was it, just fall and collapse and then learn the lessons afterwards. But I think the big part of my journey was is understanding there's loads of things here and you have a lot more power than you think and you can do more than you think. But the thing is you need to know that first. And that's what I didn't know.
Mm.
So I learned about burnout. I learned what it was doing. That's great. That was really helpful, but still felt a bit powerless until you get that courage and say, I need to do this for myself because I count and I do not want to be ill and I want to live a joyful and happy life. But actually, even acknowledging that took me a long, long time. And it's still an
Yeah.
ongoing journey.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's really, it's like whenever I listen to people talk about this, like there's so many avenues, I think, that, this idea of not being like not recognizing that you need to look after yourself, like not recognizing that you matter in the systems that you've been placed into. Like it's something that's taught to us. It's
Yeah,
taught from such a young age
yeah,
in all of
yeah.
the institutions. Like, if you think about schools, like, nobody ever looks at the school system and says the school system is the problem. They say that the learner is the problem in the
Yeah,
system.
yeah,
Like, when you look at
yeah,
work,
I
these
agree.
employees are, disruptive employees. Like, actually, there's nothing wrong with the system that they are working in. Like,
Yeah,
in all of the systems that we have been put into, you see this continuous pattern
yeah,
of
yeah. You're
everything
so
being the
right.
problem except the system. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting because when you actually look at things like the education system as an example, when you actually dissect the education system and look at where it came from and why it was created and who it was created to benefit and, all of these things, it's so, so clear that actually the education system was never made to benefit the individual person,
No, you're quite
ever,
right. Yeah.
ever. And that's the whole system that we're fed through and then made to believe that we're wrong, like that there's something wrong with us, instead of like, it's just wild when you actually think
Yeah,
about it. And then another thing that I find really, really fascinating is so CBT as a therapy
yeah.
has been proven to not actually be productive for people who are neurodivergent.
Oh, wow.
And yet it is still the offered therapy for
Yeah,
everybody who goes in with any type of depression, anxiety,
yeah,
burnout, like any of those things. But
yeah.
actually, so much of the population is neurodivergent. So they're going, we know that this doesn't work, but we're going to give it to you anyway. And actually, what it's going to do is it's going to make you feel worse rather than better,
Wow.
but we're gonna, but it's the only box we can tick at the moment. So, we're gonna do something rather than nothing.
Yeah,
And like again, it just blows my mind because I had the same experience. I got given access to a CBT therapy. I went through it and it didn't help. Like it just
yeah,
made it worse, and it just made me feel worse, and it made me feel like I was the problem, and it made me feel
yeah.
like I couldn't fix myself, and it just highlighted all of these things. And actually it was only years later that I then read the study where spoke about CBT and the neurodivergent brain, and how actually the way that it works, and it the way that it connects to behaviors actually doesn't work for people who are neurodivergent. And I was just like, oh my gosh, mind blown. Like that makes so
Wow.
much sense
Yeah,
now when I
yeah,
like understand it. And I think like this is the thing with so many of like these healing journeys that I speak to people about is a lot of it at the moment is very much trial and error. It's very
Yeah,
much like trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, like
yeah,
who you are as a person, and kind of find like a stable ground again for yourself. And
yeah,
I do think like healing is so much about just finding out who you are as a person and getting to
yeah,
know
yeah,
yourself again and like connecting back with like that truth of who you actually are
yeah.
and not having to try and squish yourself into a box or a system or a place that doesn't like isn't actually right for you and doesn't actually suit you and like isn't where you should be existing. Because I think like so much of what you're saying around this idea that, it's not about how much we're working because so many people will say, if you're doing something you love, you call it, passion and you call
Yes,
it drive. And
yeah.
but if you're doing something that you hate, you call it stress and burnout. Like it's that thing, isn't it? Like it's the
Yeah,
exact same emotion and like way of being and the way you're working and all of those things are the same. But if your values and your moral compass are misaligned,
yes,
it
yeah,
causes such a massive issue
yeah,
with how you actually feel about the things that you're doing and how you process what is actually going on around you. And I think
yeah,
like that is such a valuable lesson for people to hear is that actually if you look at the situation you're in and you ask like what value does this really really go against for me, you'll probably find the answer quicker than just
yes,
saying, why is this making me tired? Or
yeah.
like, why don't I enjoy this? Like it's such a different question, I think. And
It is.
I guess like part of what I always like to ask people when we go through this is like, were there moments or a moment that you can remember where you just thought like this is way too hard? Like I don't think I'm gonna do this. Like I don't think I can make it through this. Like what is going on? Like were there moments like that for you?
Yeah, I th definitely at the beginning, straight after I'd been signed off, and that's because I genuinely didn't know. And the CBT was my idea, and you're right, and that was shoehorning in. I think different questions and different methods would have worked better to understand what I was actually thinking and feeling, whereas this was just choose a different thought. What? Like people are getting really ill, and I feel like I'm part of it. No, I can't choose a different thought. But if they'd have gone through a little bit more and said, well, what's going on for you, I might have identified that bit sooner. And it was that when I was like, well, I don't know what to try. I don't know what to try. I don't know what to do. So of course I did what I always do. I was still answering work emails or being off, and I was still going through it, and I was still being a good girl. And I found an exit, which was fine, and it worked for me and it worked for them, but still that meant a lot of hard work and an awful lot, and it was a further 9 months. And then when I was spat out the other end, I got flu, and I was immunocompromised for 5 months. And that was just, and again, and that feeling like when you get this, you feel like there's a bit of you missing and you just don't feel joy anymore. I used to say the joy would maybe it'd go down to there, but it wouldn't go all the way down. And you just feel hollow and empty, like you're nodding and you're laughing, but the laughs aren't going all the way down. And this that bit of you's gone. And I just didn't know how I was going to get that back. And I just kept on going and I did all of the wrong things. Apart from the course, the coaching psychology, I do genuinely think was a major contributor because just different techniques, totally different techniques that were more appropriate and really helpful. When I had finally left work, I'd heard about HeartMath. I became a HeartMath practitioner. I was like, oh my God, this works. That's it. That works. Even, and it was those because before I was like, well, I'm going to get out the other end, but I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was just so exhausted. And I didn't think in this journey I'd ever get back to being me. I just thought I would just be the half me that did laundry and just carried on. And if I'd have had the energy to think ahead, I think it wouldn't have been a very great picture. So I sort of think it almost did me a favor that it just wiped the floor with me. It's like, I'll go to sleep now. I've done that. You know, because if I'd have had any more capacity, I might have plunged further. And I'm aware now as well that when you go through the continuum, and you get these hormones, they do sink, uh, and you do sink into depression if you carry on. I didn't know that at the time. You're just feeling stuff. You're just feeling like an idiot and that you don't fit in and that your life doesn't work and you don't know what to do and you're an absolute failure and you'll never laugh again and be happy, but you'll still show up for other people, even though there's only half of you, because you don't know what else to do, And yeah, at those points, I thought, I'm just never going to get myself back. And I probably went back to work too soon because that was the only option. Instead of giving myself time to recover, I decided that maybe I could be a little bit useful. But yeah, in hindsight, it made it worse. In fact, a colleague was going through something similar, and I just said, for God's sake, don't go back. You will not get yourself back. He was nearly retired. I said, do not just go retire. Make up a reason because it is not worth it. You'll be so ill afterwards. And I was still on my journey thinking, I don't even know if I'll get me back yet. But if I can help somebody else, I'll go and do that.
Oh, absolutely. I think a lot of people don't realize that you can't like numb one thing without numbing everything.
Oh, yeah, that's so true.
So you can't say like, you know, and like you mentioned it earlier, like you finally felt angry about something, but like
Yeah.
feeling angry goes against being a good girl so hard that it's like you are not allowed to feel that. That is
Yeah,
not acceptable. So we
absolutely.
bury that so tightly and we say, no, 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 like that cannot happen. And in burying that one emotion, we're burying everything else. Like it's not a case of saying, oh, I can bury the anger and still feel super joyful, because actually every emotion is a continuum. Every
Yes.
emotion is on a scale. So when we
Yeah.
say we're not going to feel anger, or we're not going to be frustrated, or we're not going to have any of these big, bold, bad, as the world, that's in inverted commas, guys listening, bad emotions that the world says we're not allowed to have, we shut down our ability to be happy, to have joy, to feel, loved, like
Yeah.
all of those positive emotions on the other side. And it
Yeah.
is that tie of like you start to question, like, am I worthy of having all of those things? Am I
Yeah.
worthy of being this joyful, or actually is this half expression of me all I'm worthy of, and that's why I've
Yeah.
got it, and that's why I'm here, and
Yes.
that's why I'm sitting in this place. And again, like it's easier for society to make women question their worth
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
keep us in that space of not being in our power, because actually women in their power are dangerous.
Yes.
Like when we
Yeah.
give women, and like you can see in the stats in the world now, like there are less women who are having children, there are less women who are getting married, there are less women who are fitting into the patriarchic role of what a woman
Yeah.
should be,
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
we have choices now, because we get to say, actually, no, thank you. Like that's actually not acceptable anymore. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so interesting. I was listening to another podcast actually about this idea that, before, all men had to do was provide a paycheck. And as long as they did that
Yeah.
well, they were a desirable mate. Like that was the
Yeah.
standard of
That's
what
so
they
true,
had to do.
isn't it? Yeah.
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 And
They're a good
now women
coach.
are like, oh no, we want you to be emotionally regulated. Like we want you to be able to have a conversation. We want you to,
Yeah.
do half the housework and like be part of the family unit
Yeah.
and carry some of the mental load. Oh, heaven help you. And like there's like so many things. And it's so interesting because I think for so many women, especially the like the older generations, so like anyone who's kind of 30 plus,
Yeah.
that is still a really difficult dynamic, because we were still in that world of be a good girl, of
Yes.
fit into the
Yeah.
the box and the criteria, and there's this real overlap of, half of what we hear is like, be empowered and do all these things. And the other half is like completely our nervous system fighting against us, going, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't, like, hold on, time out, come back here. And it's
Yeah,
like, it's such a shift, I think, for people who grew up in that good girl era, who grew
yeah,
up in that myth of like, well, if we just do all of these things and behave in this way and show up in this way, life will be good. And
yes,
then we do all
yeah.
the things, tick all the boxes, fit into all of the criteria, and life still isn't good. And we're just like, what? Like, we got lied to. Like, there was a lie being told and we fell for it. Like, what
Yeah.
happened? It's like, it's such an interesting like concept when you start to look at like all of these things that we wouldn't have even thought to question when we were
Yeah,
growing up. Like we wouldn't have
yeah,
even thought to say like, actually, is that right or wrong? Or, should that be the way? Or, can I feel this thing? Or like none of that would have even been questioned. And now, as adults, having to not only question all of that stuff, but do it when we're under extreme stress. It's
yeah.
such a difficult time, I think, for
It's,
people
yeah.
like to try and navigate. So I think it's like not, and then being the perfect good girl and helping everyone else while you while you're doing that. Like I can see it's not working for me, but let me help you and tell
Yeah,
you how
yeah,
you should be doing it well.
yeah.
Like it's such typical behavior, isn't it,
Yes.
of that like process that we've grown through. And I guess like what do you think your biggest shift has been in the way that you view the world or your belief, like from who you were, you know, before to
Then
now?
that's a lovely question. I think I've got two areas of that. One is learning to value myself enough to count in that picture. And the second one is making contact with my anger around stress and telling the world because it is so overused, but it's also felt. So people, they say always they're just stressed. And you look at them, you're like, yeah, you do know they might die, right? You do know that stress kills people. And it makes me angry that people don't know that it can screw over your life. It can make you not a complete person. It can make you collapse. It can make you physically ill. And I was coaching with a client, and everything that she was describing was horrific at work. And she was working all the hours God sends, and she's like, really feel like I'm on the edge. And I said, well, I said, you need to be careful and maybe think about how you manage your stress because you're going to be ill. And she went, oh God, no, I'd never go to the doctor. And I thought, what makes you think you'll have a choice? And that's what people don't realize is I used to say, if you don't listen, your body will take you out. That's true in part, but your body just collapses and your mind collapses. And I think when my back was going, that was my body taking me out, and I continued not to listen. And then my whole system just collapsed. So I took me out, not my body. I did it by not listening. And my changed perspective is around change your life so that you count, but really importantly, take your bloody stress seriously. If that is a word, or if you see somebody, you can see them, they look exhausted. Or you see somebody and you think, ye gad, they look like they've aged about 20 years. Stress will do that to you. Or sitting in an armchair falling asleep, not living because you're so tired from work. Or there's so many things and people and stories, and I talk to people and they're like, yeah, I laid in bed and my wife told me I was physically shaking in the night. It's like that's your nervous system. That is because it's so overwhelmed. And at no point in time do they think, I need to take a break from work. It's like this literally will kill you. So just take it bloody seriously. And that's why I think the word stress is overused. Because if you really, really paid attention to what is actually going on, and even if it's a small stress, if people were taught how to manage that, then it might not become catastrophic. But for people who are overloaded and burnt out, if they had somebody like my friend go, "You're not right, you are not right," and I listened, if more people did that and said, and you don't want to hear you might die, but sometimes that can be the most helpful thing. You need to, this is something that is now a medical condition. Again, it's not recognized medically, which pisses me off, but it is recognized medically because they know what it contributes to. It's like, oh no, well, they tell you if you look at the data, stress will give you a heart attack, stress will give you diabetes, stress will give you an ulcer. But medically, they're saying it's, oh no, there's no real kind of substance behind this. They can't even agree between whether or not they treat stress the same way as depression, same medication. If you do get medicated, and there's not enough agreement on it, there's not enough talk of it, there's too much hearsay, there's not enough practical stuff. So yeah, I channel into that anger around people need to know, and actually a lot of the stuff that you can start to do to get yourself back into a more regulated state, and that is just dialing down the hormones so that you can think clearly and take proper action. It's easy. And I was talking with a friend of mine about it, and we both trained rooms full of different types of doctors. She taught rooms full of teachers, and she said, I think they get really angry because it's easy, and they don't believe it because it's easy. The good breath work can help with self-regulation, but they don't like to admit that something that easy can start. It's just one step in the journey to get you thinking more coherently so that you can examine then what's going on with you and make the changes. But you've got to take that first step. And for some reason, it either needs a drug or it needs to be ridiculously complicated, and it just simply isn't. So,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So my sister is well, she's a practitioner, but she's a nurse in the NHS. And
ah,
I remember when she was like years ago, like really kind of early, she was just kind of starting in the ICU. And I remember her saying to me that I was basically living in like a cortisol state where I was producing way too much cortisol because I was just
yeah,
constantly stressed and everything would stress me out. And I was
yeah,
just constantly living in this hyper vigilant,
yeah,
like fight or flight
yeah,
state all of the time. And I remember her saying the same thing to me, like, this is going to cause longer term issues. Like, this is going to
yeah,
cause real long term health issues. And she was like, I'm really concerned. You need to not be in this place. You need to learn how to manage your stress levels.
yeah,
And, you need to do something about this. And I do think, like, again, so many people don't have somebody who can actually say that to them, who can actually
yeah,
sit down and say, these are the hormones, this is what's happening, like,
yeah,
this is why you're feeling this way. And unfortunately, exactly like you were saying, like the actual, medical system isn't really giving people that clear direction
no,
on, these are the really key things you should be looking for. This is how you should be managing this. Like, these are the things that you can do. I mean, I was literally like not sleeping. I would like sleep
uh,
so badly. And obviously,
yeah,
sleep is one of the most important things to regulate your hormones. But
yes.
I would literally just like never sleep. It would take me hours to fall
Oh
asleep
gosh.
because my cortisol levels were just through the roof. They were just
Absolutely. Still on guard,
constantly
aren't
through the
you?
roof.
But
And
then you're
it's
more stressed because you
exactly
can't
that.
sleep.
Yeah, 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 exactly. More stress, can't sleep,
Yeah.
getting all in my head about why I can't sleep and what's going on. And, like literally it's
Yeah.
this like
Yeah.
vicious cycle.
Yeah.
But I think, again, so many people don't understand it. They don't know. They're never told. They're not taught these things. Like,
No. No.
there's such a gap, I think, for this area for people to actually understand all of this and how your hormones affect you. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just really, really incredible, I think. And I guess, like, I know that you said obviously you were working in corporate and that was kind of where all of this kind of unfolded. And
Yeah.
obviously you're no longer working in corporate.
Yeah.
You do something very different now. So,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
how did that transition happen? Like, I know that you did your coaching qualification. Like, how did that sort of end up to be where you are now?
Do you know what it? it all came really beautifully. I was offered a promotion, which I didn't want. And the promotion would have meant, I mean, my partner was like, whoopee, more money, more things. And I'm like, it's a bigger geography. I'm already on a plane too much. It's too much. And so we negotiated a way, and that was that. So it was, in effect, my role was redundant. And that was that. And that was really positive for me. But I stayed on to make sure that the transition was good for the person coming in because I like to please others. Um, but yeah, that worked out really well. And then I was lucky as well. I my favorite things to do in the workplace were training people and mentoring and coaching. So I in my role, I also train people. I train people to be coaches. I train people to in management and leadership, and I work as an associate with a wonderful company doing that. And then the rest of the time is my coaching business, and also teaching people about the world of stress. But yeah, it was a really lucky and it was a purposeful but scary decision, but very, very on purpose. I can't keep doing this. It just doesn't feel right. And I think I was so burnt out, and when because you lack capacity for lots of thought, but because I was on the floor, I was like, I don't want this, so bye. That was as much decision making as it was because that's all I was capable of. If it had been a bit more discerning, it's like, yeah, work for a few months, build up your business, get your clients, do all the right things. But I was like that, no, bye. I was just very, very, very lucky, and I was treated very well when I left, and ended up landing on my feet. Um, but yeah, I really wasn't capable of much thought at the time because you're not when you're stressed. That's part of it. It's the function of it. Don't make big decisions. You can't.
Yeah.
But I knew what I didn't need anymore. And I was like that. I can just do one step and that's it.
Sometimes that's all that's needed, though. Just one
Yes,
step in the right
right.
direction.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's this whole thing, isn't it? There's so many different things that we can do to help manage our stress, but we just need to do one small thing and realize how important that is. Because if you look up the world of stress and stress management, it's going to give you a ton of things. And different things work for different people. But the first thing is easy ways to regulate because you're changing your hormone composition. There are 1,400 biochemicals reactions going on. You need to slow them the hell down. And doing the small, easy stuff, not a million things. Because if you're stressed, you'll think you have to do it all. Oh, I need to go for a run now. Oh, I need to help this. I need some oats. I need to do this. I need to do this. And it's like, no, do the for me the heart math, getting your regulation, going through breath work. And then you can start to add more in when you're ready, but it's recognizing that you're exhausted. Because the other end of the cortisol is it dips. Eventually, your brain will say enough, it'll take it away, and then you're on the floor. You go because with
Mhm.
that, cortisol gets us up, it keeps us going. It's when it's in excess that is the problem. But if not, then you're like, oh, I can't get up. It's like I'd have a bath, but I don't have the energy to get out again. It's that
Mhm.
kind of thing. And it's recognizing that. Do the small, do the easy, and know that it's working because there's a science behind it if you like science. If not, take that leap of faith. But we are quick, quick, quick in society, aren't we? You should be able to get over it like that. This stuff's taken years to build up. It's years of conditioning. It's years of living that way. It's years of the constantly on, and people are like, "Oh yeah, you're in a state of chronic stress." Yeah, you've lived with it for years. Okay, you do the chronic stress thing. I know younger generations are certainly coming through and experiencing. They're getting to burnout in their 20s now, because there's a different awareness. Everything's accelerating. But for the over 30s or whatever, you've lived this for years. Don't expect it's going to transform overnight, and be patient with yourself and love yourself through it. Because if
Mm.
not, you are just going to be focusing what's missing rather than saying every day I am doing something, even if it's only the breath work, even if it's only
Mm.
spending a few minutes in the garden, but it is doing so because it is. The science says it is. It's science says it's working.
Mm.
You just need patience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I always ask people, like, And I guess we're kind of on that topic now, so I'm gonna go there now.
Okay.
But like, what is your advice? Like, if somebody is sitting in their office right now, driving in their car right now, listening to this podcast, and they're at that point where they're like, I think I'm burning out, and they're
Yeah.
really resonating with this moment right now, like, what should they be doing? Genuinely.
Genuinely, go see your GP and go get signed off. Okay, that's the best thing you can do. If you haven't, depending on where you're listening in the world, if you don't get sick pay, take some holiday. You need to absolutely just stop. And that is what people don't get. Because in my corporate role, I was HR. Okay, I didn't say that bit. And they're saying, oh yeah, they need fixing, they need to be there, they need to get out because your hormones are just going to get worse and something catastrophic will happen. And if you're feeling like this, you cannot get better while you are still, if you're at burnout, if you're at high stress, there are things you can do and still function in the workplace, but you will still need to take holidays. If you are at burnout, you just need to get out and rest. So that's the first thing I do. And the second thing is go learn about, for me, it was HeartMath because there's science behind it and it's easy. Do not hold your breath when you are in burnout. Do not do box breathing in burnout because breath holding sends a stress signal. It works later on when you're recovered. But because most of us are like, it's the freeze, isn't it? Fight, fight, freeze. It's the I'm hiding. So yeah, do the nicer breath work slowly in, slowly out. Even if you just do that several times a day, because it's helping. But you need to take that time out. You need to explain to your friends, to your family, and if you need to go sit under your duvet, your bed, go do that because your body needs to start to recover, and it cannot do it while you're at work. As I say, different story if you are noticing it, but you're not at burnout. But to be honest with you, even if you were just noticing it, I'd still say if you can, just take time out completely and take it seriously. Take yourself seriously. The people that I coach, if you are feeling like you've not got a life, feeling like you can't sleep, you're feeling like you've got something crawling inside your body, or your nervous system is doing that, or I was going numb in my face, or you just cannot think straight because you're like even easy things, or like me, the undefining moment when I've been signed off, I couldn't figure out how to park the car, so I sat and cried because that bit of your brain is gone. Okay, it's gone
Mhm.
because the other bit of your brain has taken over. So you need to just stop everything. And that's hard to hear, but it will probably save your life.
Mhm. Absolutely. We are like, as a society, we're taught that our worth is connected to how much we do and how productive we are, and how much we can show up. And there's a real stigma around going slow, taking time,
Yeah,
all of these things. And I think for so many people, especially in the older generations, it's so overlooked. Like, people are
yeah.
very set on, well, we just need to keep going and push through and not show our emotions, and like
Oh my
like
gosh,
it's like
yeah.
a badge of honor
So
that people
toxic.
wear. Where, yeah, it's so toxic. It is
Yeah,
so toxic. And I think for so many people, like especially of that older generation, it is actually just knowing that it's okay, like knowing that you're allowed to feel things, like things are allowed to be
yeah,
hard, you're allowed to process through them, like not everything has to be okay, you don't have to be able to hold everything all of the
yeah,
time. Like, there are moments where you can just say, actually, I just need some help, and that's also okay. Like, I
yeah,
think there's a lot of messages that people just need to hear
yes,
around this topic that just
yeah.
don't really get discussed very much.
No,
So
they
yeah,
don't.
so I'm really glad that we've had this conversation and we're able to sort of put some of these messages into the world. I think that that is
Yeah,
really, really incredible.
hope so.
So, one final question for you then. I
Mm.
love asking people this question, and it's always my favorite. I think for me, I massively believe that the healing journey is exactly that, a journey.
Yes,
And it's never a kind of, oh, I've done this thing and we're done now, and everything is great. I feel like it's this constant evolution of
yeah,
coming back to yourself and like rediscovering like who you are in the world.
yes.
So I always like to ask our guests, like, what is your current or like next level of healing? What are you doing at the moment in this space?
Oh, lovely. Thank you. That's a great question. I'm doing a couple of great things. So I'm f finally writing my stress management course, which I feel really cathartic, so I can get it out into the world and just help people. And it's for aimed at people with burnout to help them to understand and to get some tools and to figure out um, what is happening to you, what can you do about it? And then what just happened? So how did you get there? So that's one thing. I'm finding that very cathartic, and there's more research. And the second is I'm back teaching angelic Reiki, which I love. I love. And I'm researching as part of this the world of spirituality. There's a book by Dr. Lisa Miller, and she found the area. There's cortical thickening when your spiritual brain is switched on because it's part of being human. And it's whatever it means for people. It doesn't need to be organized religion. It can be walking in nature. It can be a yoga practice. And it's the belief in something other. And it's linked to meaning and purpose, which is well known in psychological terms. So that is really fascinating. And I've been going through some challenging times at the moment. And I did a Reiki share with people, and I came away feeling amazing from being really, really depleted. So doing more of that. And I've also started to train in something called the sacred medicine of the rose, which is fantastic. And that is it's almost like a guided meditation, but it uses kind of a spiritual aspect. And that seems to be changing elements of me, and it's getting me in touch with who I am, including that wise inner dialogue. I have not got a clue. I can give you the science behind Reiki and all the other stuff. I can't give you the science behind this, but what I can say is that now I've got this wise inner voice that I think might have been there at one point in my life, but it's no longer there. But through these different things, and every time I go through one of these, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I can see things. I've got different perspective. I'm more humble. I can see where what I'm doing that's not so brilliant. I can see where I need to take rest. It's almost I'm back in touch with my intuition and the inner me through this technique. And I had no idea quite how much it was missing. But I'm like, I seem to be carrying this very wise person with me who like gives me a different perspective and gets me to hit pause. It's just like, wow, okay, I'm going to pause, going to think about that, going to digest. Yeah. Okay, I can see a different picture here. I can see that I've not been splendid. I'm going to stop doing that or not even start it. So, yeah, it's more that do the practical stuff and do the spiritual stuff because that's what makes life worth living for me. That and spending time with my herbs. I love a bit of herbalism. So yeah, all of that is tapping back into me. Probably all the stuff that I loved as a child, as children when we're free and easy and we can choose. I was always making potions. I was always talking to my guardian angel. I was always believing in magic. I was always quite wise. So it's getting that back.
Oh, I love that so much. It's so good. I literally,
Feels great.
everyone should be connecting back with that
Yes,
100%.
absolutely. It makes you happy. Just joyful.
Absolutely.
And as kids, it
Oh,
doesn't take a
absolutely.
lot. Like literally some rose petals, some water, and a stick. I was happy.
Mhm.
Or just looking
Oh,
at the clouds, I
absolutely.
was happy. And this stuff, again, science will back that one up. Oh, that's just really great. I'm reading Dr. Joseph Gibelli's work, The Mind at Rest, which is fabulous. All the stuff we did as kids.
Mm, I literally love it. Oh my gosh. Helen, it has been such an honor to have you on the podcast.
Thank you
Thank you so
so
much for
much.
sharing your journey and everything that you've gone through. I think that it's so incredible for people to just have these stories to be able to relate to and learn from. So, genuinely, I'm so grateful that you came and shared with us today.
And thank you for your words of wisdom as well throughout, Jackie. Thank you so much to you.
Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of the Diary of Discovery. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends, family, or anyone else you think might benefit from the stories of hope and transformation. Your feedback means the absolute world to us, so please take a moment to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help us to reach even more listeners and continue to bring this meaningful content to the world. until next time, remember, your healing journey is valid. You are never alone, and you have the strength to get through this. Keep shining bright, and we'll see you in the next episode of The Diary of Discovery.